Hi, I want to start today by asking you to picture something. I want to take you to a small government school classroom in Ayanagar, Delhi. There were cracked walls, a ceiling fan that barely turned. No smart boards, no fancy technology, just a blackboard, wooden desks and chairs, and 45 wide-eyed fourth grade girls, my very first classroom. I had just joined as a Teach for India fellow, fresh from an intensive training, feeling ready to teach. But I spent most of my first year feeling like I was failing. I was struggling to manage a classroom, overwhelmed and extremely passionate, but extremely unprepared. And I remember in those days, what kept me grounded was Yash ma'am, a senior government teacher in the school. She was my co-class teacher. She reminded me to hold myself lightly, to laugh, to value the little things. She worked beside me, brainstormed ideas for the classroom and what more we could do for the kids. She really showed me what deep care looks like when it's practiced every day, even in a system that gives you very little in return. She usually didn't have time, support, or recognition, but she built trust and taught with a lot of intention and love. And she taught me that public school teachers are not apathetic and they just want the best for their students. But that's not the dominant story we hear. We are told that government school teachers are lazy, outdated, resistant to change. Um, and yet, there are over 140 million children in India who rely on them, rely on government schools for a chance for a thriving life. What's really unacceptable is how quickly we place the blame on teachers' shoulders. We forget that these teachers are under resourced, under recognized, and still show up every single day. And at Simple Education Foundation, that's really where our rebellion begins. We see teachers as the most powerful, underestimated force to transform the system from within. We choose to stay with them, to work with and within the system, and not outside it. To partner with the public education system means choosing the slower, more deliberate path, strengthening what already exists so it better serves the children and the teachers who sustain it and fuel it. Too often, our solutions as educational entrepreneurs or organization starts by diagnosing what teachers lack, their deficits, their gaps, what they can do better. But what if we began with what they bring, the care they offer, the wisdom they hold, just like Yash ma'am? What would it look like if we didn't build around their limitations, but built with them for their strengths? And that question is really what sits at the heart of our work in a country that's so vast and complex as India, with 28 states, 22 official languages, and countless dialects identities. Every region holds its own character, its own challenges. For us at SEF, that looks like Uttarakhand, where teachers trek for hours across mountain trails just to get to their classrooms. Punjab, where border districts are shaped by climate change, addiction, migration. And Delhi, where there is communal tension, housing instability, and again, seasonal migration. And still, teachers show up every day. They teach multi-grade, multi-level classrooms, 5 grades, just one teacher. They create their own resources when textbooks come months late from the government. They're the only trusted adults in many of the children's lives, children who are navigating loss and uncertainty. And that's what we asked. How do we walk beside them? How do we build with love and care? And how do we support them in solidarity, in equal partners in the process of change? And we began by listening. What's hard for you? What support do you wish you had? Uh, And we co-design solutions, and that's the route that we've taken: co-designing solutions, testing them in real classrooms, collecting feedback, refining, rebuilding, and only then scaling with that responsibility, scaling with tried and tested teacher voices. Over the past 10 years, across 3 states, we've worked with more than 150,000 teachers, reaching over 4 million children. Together, we've built multi-grade teaching strategies that reflect the lived reality of one teacher managing 5 grades, designed frameworks that ease the journey from mother tongue instruction to English language, uh, supporting children's well-being, not just academically, but emotionally, socially, because that safety is so critical in for the children that we serve. And we've gone beyond the classroom as well, investing in the capacity of government mentors, leads, institutions, because it's an entire systemic shift. And it's only anchored in one belief: teachers shouldn't be passive receivers of the reform. They should be the co creators, the leaders, and the folks who bring the change to the system. So, and we believe this because learning is deeply human and transformation must be that too. And the education system doesn't need another quick fix. It needs long-term trust. It needs collective design. And it needs lasting, staying power, something that sustains. In the end, it's not about learning outcomes, it's about rewriting the future that India can have and who gets to have a voice in that story. Uh, it needs to be from the ground up, it needs to be with the teachers, it needs to be beside them, it needs to be co created with them. So that's what I leave you with. You are here today because you deeply care about something, your own status quo, you want to challenge, your own rebellion, your own radical choice that you are making. So, my question to you is, what does deep commitment look like for you in your context? How does patience, resilience, care, and love show up in the work that you do? And how do you look at solutions with belief and possibility instead of deficits and things you need to fix? How do you build with? Uh, Thank you so much for having me, and would love to hear from the other stories and the other speakers.